What if I told you that the single biggest obstacle to your success has nothing to do with your talent, your bank account, or your luck? What if it's an invisible cage? A cage built by a force you obey every single day without even realizing it. A force that dictates what you wear, where you live, what you study, and even who you love. That force is the opinion of other people. And today, we're going to find the key to that cage. What is self? It's not arrogance. It's not ego. It's a quiet confidence, a deep self-belief. It's the radical idea that the opinions of others don't have to define your reality. It means valuing yourself with the same respect you give to others. It's about connecting with your true inner self. It means being natural, living naturally. Think about newborn babies. They are brimming with self-esteem. They are perfectly, unapologetically themselves. As they grow older, we teach them embarrassment. We teach them to be shy. We teach them to do things for other people, to please them, to fit in. True self-esteem is about returning to that state of being a child, to be authentic, to understand your own worth. I want to dive deep into this today, specifically focusing on the power of other people's opinions. Because as long as their opinions matter in our lives, as long as our decisions, our choices, and our entire way of life are dictated by what others might think, our lives will remain incredibly difficult. I know someone who operates in a very high-stakes public arena, and he's faced an almost unbelievable level of public scrutiny. His business dealings, his personal life, past mistakes, every imaginable thing that you would assume could permanently destroy a person's reputation have been used against him. The entire strategy of his opponents was to use this history to shatter his public image. And what's so fascinating? What is the secret that allows someone to survive that? It's not magic. It's not luck. It's his reaction, or rather, his lack of one. It's like the criticism doesn't even land. He has this almost unbelievable ability to control his mind in the face of public opinion. On the rare occasion where something is proven true, where it's clear something happened, he doesn't deny it. He just calmly says something like, "Yes, that happened." That was a different time in my life. I've moved on. This perspective is revolutionary because it allows you to come to terms with any past you've had. It gives you the freedom to build a successful and happy life, even with a complicated background. Of course, the temptation is to think, well, if I just had a perfect past, none of this would matter. But that's a trap, because even for people who seem to have a flawless record, the criticism doesn't stop. When critics can't find a real flaw to attack, they simply invent one. They'll question your motives. They'll twist your words. They will always find something. So the solution isn't to be perfect. The solution is to be resilient. It's wonderful to live a life where you can hold your head high. But let's be realistic. We are all human. We make mistakes. We take wrong turns. The real test is whether you can still hold your head high even then. To be able to look at your past and say, yes, that was a part of my journey, and I have changed. Or at the very least, I am trying to change. So we've established the problem. This invisible cage of public opinion that limits our potential and our happiness. We've seen what it looks like to defy it. But the real question is, what are the bars of your cage? What are the specific fears of judgment that hold you back? Now, I want you to think about that. Your invisible cage isn't built of steel. It's built of fears. Fear of being called a failure. Fear of being misunderstood. Fear of not being liked. My question for you is this. In the comments below, tell me one bar on your invisible cage. What is one opinion from others that you find yourself constantly worried? Ever found yourself saying yes when every single part of your being was screaming no? Have you ever worn something you didn't love? Or stayed silent when you wanted to speak up? All because you were worried about what they would think? If so, you're not alone. I'm speaking to myself here, too. This need to please others has been my Achilles heel for most of my life. This constant pressure to live in a way that gets applause, to come out of every situation without being judged. I always used to envy those people who were so carefree, whose self-confidence was so high that they genuinely didn't care what anyone else thought. I've been envious of that, so I tried to change. In some areas, I did well. My own comfort and my own freedom were a higher priority to me than other people's opinions. And that's a key insight for you. You already do this in some areas of your life. There are things where your internal priority is stronger than the external pressure. The secret is learning to apply that strength everywhere, but then there are the weak spots. For me, it's the fear of being a bother. I have incredibly low self-esteem when it comes to asking for help. I feel like I'm a burden. One day, I needed to use the restroom, and there was a small restaurant next to us. One of my friends said, "Let's just go in." I was horrified. I said, "I can't just walk in without buying anything. The owner will be annoyed." But, my friend, he just walked in, politely asked where it was, used it, and came out. And I was just stunned. How could he do that? My point is, we all have these battles with judgment. Maybe for you, it's not asking for help, but it's speaking up in a meeting, or pursuing a creative passion, or ending a relationship that isn't working. We all have our areas of strength and our areas of weakness. So, how do we strengthen the weak spots? How do we find out who we are underneath all those layers of social conditioning? This is where the real work begins. I want to give you a tool, a powerful thought experiment to help you discover your authentic self. Imagine you are living on a deserted island. This island is a paradise with everything you could ever need, but you are the only person there, and no one else is ever coming. Now, really think about it. What would you stop doing immediately? What clothes would you stop wearing? What ambitions would you let go of? And more importantly, what would you start doing? What new passions would you explore just for yourself? What would suddenly become your highest priority? And what would lose all its meaning? Everything that falls away on that island, every ambition, every outfit, every habit you would drop. That is what you are currently doing for the opinion of other people. The person left standing on that island is the real you. Take a moment right now if you can, and truly think about your island. Who is that person, free from judgment? What do they value? What brings them joy? Because understanding that person is the first step to becoming them. The person on your island holds the blueprint for your authentic life. It's a powerful and sometimes scary thing to meet them. In the comments, I want you to share one thing about the person on your island. What is one thing they would do differently than you do today? Would they paint? Would they sing? Would they rest more? Alright, it's time to bring it all home. We've talked about the invisible cage of public opinion, and you've met the free person living on your mental island. Now for the most important question. How do we bridge the gap between those two worlds? How do we build a life of authentic freedom? Not just in our minds, but in our daily actions. This is where things get difficult, because it requires confronting the root of our fears, not just the symptoms. Let me tell you a story about a friend of mine. He was a very well-respected person in his community, and he went through a really difficult time in his marriage. For about a year, it was clear to everyone close to him that he and his partner were on completely different paths. Their goals, their values, their vision for life. It just wasn't aligned anymore. And I watched him exhaust himself trying to hold it all together. He was a very charismatic and persuasive person, and he was using all of his talent trying to make things work on the surface, even though the foundation was cracked. And when I asked him why he was trying so hard, why he was putting himself through so much stress, his answer was always the same. What will people think? He was terrified of the judgment, the gossip, the failure that people would see. He was a perfect example of someone treating the symptom instead of the root cause. The symptom was the failing relationship. The root cause was his deep, paralyzing fear of public opinion. He was shrinking his own life and his partner's to accommodate that fear. And then one day, something shifted in him. He told me he had a profound realization. He understood that his top priority wasn't to maintain an image for others, but to live an authentic and truthful life for himself. He decided he had to solve the root problem, his fear of judgment, and the only way to do that was to make the right, albeit difficult, decision. He finally had that tough conversation. He let go of the need to control the outcome or what people would say, and he told me afterward that the feeling of relief was indescribable. He said, "It felt like a massive weight I didn't even know I was carrying had been lifted off my shoulders. It was freedom." This story isn't just about relationships. It is about every area of your life where you are letting the fear of judgment stop you from making the authentic choice. True freedom isn't about being reckless. That's often just another form of attention seeking. True freedom is when your actions are driven from within by your own values, not as a reaction to the outside world. This means you have to do the deep, internal work. It applies to everything, especially your finances. People can make good money for a month or two, but if they haven't fixed their core beliefs about self-worth and wealth, they will inevitably slide back. Someone who achieves sustainable success in their career, their health, and their relationships is someone who has done the deep, internal work. They have solved the problems at the root. And this is a process. It unfolds in stages. First, your thoughts change. You start seeing signs and possibilities where you didn't before. The next crucial step is when that change in thought becomes strong enough to change your behavior. That's when you start seeing real, tangible results in your life. But the final, most powerful stage is when that new behavior is repeated so consistently that it becomes an unconscious habit. When living authentically becomes your automatic way of being, that's when the ultimate rewards of life arrive. That's when you create your own paradise. That's when success becomes inevitable. Not because you're forcing it, but because it's the natural outcome of who you have become. It's about building new habits, new ways of being that are aligned with the free person on your island. When a belief doesn't change your behavior, it's just an empty thought. When your actions change, you see results. But when your positive actions become your new normal, you unlock a life of deep and lasting fulfillment. This journey, from the invisible cage to the freedom of your own island, is one of the most important journeys you will ever take. It's not easy, but it is worth it. It's the path from living for everyone else to finally, truly living for yourself. So, my final challenge to you is this, in the comments below. Commit to one small action you can take this week to be more like the person on your island. Will you say no to something? Will you spend 15 minutes on a forgotten hobby? What is one small step toward your freedom? Thank you for joining me. If this video has helped you, please share it with someone who needs to hear it.